A very warm welcome to yet another LinkedIn Live with the enigmatic, quite dashing looking, I'm going to say. I said I'd start things off with a compliment. We've got Rory Laughton-Scott, who's come to join us today, who is the career agent, and he's going to be talking to you all about how to attract the best candidates. Good afternoon, Rory.
Hello, Miles. Thanks for inviting me, and thanks to everyone who is joining and anyone who's watching this on catch up as well.
Absolutely. I'm just checking that the internet is working, and it is.
Yep.
Yes, we're in double digits in terms of people watching live already. So thank you so much indeed for watching live. Rory's nervous. No, he's not nervous. If you've got any questions at all about attracting the best candidates, I'm guessing that you are employers yourself and you've got some pain points, please pop them in the chat. Whilst Rory's taking us through his presentation today, I'll be keeping an eye on that and we'll hopefully be able to answer them live on air. Now, I'm a big fan, Rory, of diving straight into things rather than doing a long preamble, because people have come on and they're expecting us to chat rather than expecting us to waffle. But I've known Rory now for quite a number of years. I remember one of the first sort of times, I don't think it was the first time, but one of the first times we met was on a boat networking down the Thames.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Which
remember it well.
was a sight to behold, actually. If you ever get the opportunity, dive in and do that. But what I do know about Rory and the career agent is that he has a fresh approach to recruitment, and I've been privy to his presentation, and by golly, you've got a treat coming up today. So Rory, maybe you can share your screen.
So no pressure there.
No pressure at all. Jeremy Horn is on and he says, great to be here. It's great to have you here, sir. Home, sorry. That's me glasses. That's me age, Jeremy. That's me age. Right.
So can you see my opening page?
I can, and I'm just going to spoil the magic of television by just moving everything around. Right, Rory, you are live and your presentation is full screen, so it's over to you, sir.
Okay, so my LinkedIn Live, I've changed the name, so I've mucked around already. I've called it Recruitment, How to Attract the Right Candidates, not just the best, because what we want to do is attract the right candidates for your job, for your company, or for your team to make your lives easier. Because there's absolutely no point in hiring someone unless it makes your life and the company's lives better in some way. And you want to attract the people who will do that and discourage the people who will not do that. So we're going to go into it, and we're going to start off high level first, about looking at recruitment, good and bad. And what I mean by that is hiring the wrong person or hiring the right person. So if we start properly high level, money, it costs, I've tried to quantify before on how much it costs to hire the wrong person, and it's obviously impossible to find an exact figure. But if you find the wrong person, you've got to train them, you've got to manage them, you've got to exit them, you've got to replace them, right? But not only that, it's the opportunity cost in your time and the opportunity cost of finding someone who does well and makes the business money. There's also, you spend a lot of time going, oh, it's our fault. This person's not performing and it's our fault. But actually, in reality, it's no one's fault, because that person doesn't want to do your job, but might tell you that they do in one-to-ones. So money is a huge indicator here, and it has a huge impact here on money and whether you can make more or not make any at all, or in fact lose money. The second one is dynamic, the team dynamic, which I'm going to bang on about today, but the team culture. And on the right, you've got people are happy. Everyone feels like a buzz, a unity. We're up for this. And look, we'd all rather be on holiday than working. But if you're going to be working, you might as well enjoy it. And if you get the right people around you who all are a geek for what they do, then it just works and it's fun. But even one person who doesn't love it can affect the team. I've seen So many examples from my clients of you hire the wrong person and it affects the whole team dynamic on how things were going in the first place. So you've got to be bloody careful. And the third one is you know, so if you hire the wrong person, this is what happens on the left: stress, angst, frustration. It moves you away from what you liked doing in the first place. Whatever your job is, you founded this business or you run the team, you know, it takes you away from the enjoyable bit. And then on the right, if you hire someone that's bloody good and does make your life easier, it means you can outsource those tasks that you're doing, you don't want to do to them. It means you can start to dream and go, right, what would I like to be doing now? What would be better for me? How can I move this company forward? How can I move this team forward? And you know, instead of going on a Monday, for Christ's sake, I really can't be bothered going in. You're like, yeah, all right, let's go to work today. So that's at a high level. Let's look at what goes wrong in a more focused level. So the first thing is, it turns out there's 8 stages to hiring. You probably didn't know that. We didn't know that either. We put this presentation together and realized you could probably chop it up into 8 stages, which makes it easy. And let's go through each one rather than reading them all instead of listening to me talking. So hiring plan, we're too busy, let's just hire. And what happens is people then go straight to point 5 and just go for it. Go, well, let's just hire, let's just bring someone in. We've got too much on. And the point is, this is a time to go, hang on, whoa. What's happening? Why are we doing well? The people that are here at the moment, why are they doing well? What makes them good? And anyway, I'm jumping ahead now. But let's take a bit of time to think about why we're hiring and who we're going to hire. The team dynamic, which you could also call the culture or personality fit. Would we go for a beer with them? That's what people say. Do we like them? Would you go for a beer with them? That information is sometimes important for sales roles, for account management, for project management. Sometimes it's important. It's largely irrelevant. It's not what the team dynamic is about. It needs to go much far further than that. Job specs. Just copy and paste the old spec for now. We'll edit it later.
Guilty.
Miles laughing. It happens a lot. Sometimes there's no job spec at all. And I'm a bit of a geek for job specs, which certainly helps in the job that I'm in. But it's really important. And I want to show you guys that if you take a bit of time over 1 to 4, you know, it's like planning an essay rather than just launching straight into it. Take a bit of time 1 to 4, and then your lives will become way, way easier. Selling yourselves. We're a dynamic, fast-paced global organization. We put our people first. We're progressive. We're a diverse employer. It's just absolute bump and chat. Everyone, it's corporate chat. Everyone feels like they have to say it, but I'm going to teach you how to sell yourselves in terms of what candidates are really looking for. Adverts. Does anyone know how LinkedIn works? I'm going to give you some stuff on adverts and some tips there, but I'm not going to go mad. Recruiters. This guy I spoke to said he was a specialist. They all say they're specialists in everything. You do get specialists, but they're all blaggers, even me. And I'm going to tell you to work out whether your recruiter is working in your interest or in their interest. Interviews. Tell me about a time when you've successfully delivered a project. These are your standard.
Why do you want to work for this company?
So these are questions where it's important and to ask these questions, but it doesn't anywhere near get to the absolute like hub of why the person wants to work for you. And I'll tell you how to do that. Closing. Why didn't the candidate take our offer? Oh, they took another job. I mean, if someone gets all the way to you offering them and they take another job, you've just thrown hours of effort and money out of the window, when actually there's ways of finding out whether your candidate will accept your offer if it comes from the first time you speak to them. And that I'm going to talk about that a bit as well. So the reason I put the rocket there is let's not press launch until we've done the previous bit. So talk objectives. We're going to go through the 8, but in a nice blue color rather than the red, because everything's going to become easy and easier. And at the bottom, you'll see the progress of the talk all the way along, where you can see where we are in case you drift off for a bit or get bored. So we're going to also use ourselves as an example. So hiring for us and how we looked at what we need as a business as an example, and then you can use that. So the first thing is hiring plan. Why are you hiring? There needs to be some reflection on this. If things are going really well, just take it easy. Like, yes, it would be nice to hire someone to continue this great growth, but let's look at why things are going well. It's called, Matthew Syed calls it black box thinking. Things are going well, they're not going so well. Let's really take some time to think about it. Because if you rush into hiring and do things that companies often do, which is you've got a high performer in a department and it's growing, so then they go, well, we've got more work to do. We're a bigger company now, so let's hire someone above them who's senior. You then really piss off that junior who was progressing perfectly well. There's so many examples like that where you've got to slow down and think, why are we hiring? Why are we growing this part of the business? Does it really need it? So what we did as a company is we gave ourselves a star rating across the key things that we do. And you'll be able to slice and dice this depending on who you are and what your business does. But we looked at it and went, well, recruitment, we're good at it. We'd like to think we're good at it, but we need more time put towards it. So we give it a 4-star. And sales, bringing new clients in, we need to put some effort in there. So to take this further, and I don't want you to we're bringing through the star ratings across our different departments. We expanded it. And we wrote out every single task that we do across each department. And what that does is you go, well, what are we doing every day? Who's doing what? And then you can say, well, Rory does lots of the green and some of the blue, and Leanne does lots of the green and some of the blue. And the reason that this dynamic is working between us is that Leanne is more of an introverted character who loves order, administration, strategy, and she's an excellent headhunter, going in and finding candidates and being a researcher, really analyzing as if she's a police detective on one of those ITV shows. And so she does that, and I am the person that meets people all day, every day, because it turns out, a ridiculous extrovert, where that's where I get my energy from. So no. That's why it works. And it's not luck, it's not skill, it's who I am and it's who she is as people that means that it works. But it'd be very easy to ruin that if we don't hire the right person next. Whereas here we go, this is what we need. Someone who concentrates on those recruitment and sales areas. And that's what we need. And then what you've got is you're halfway to writing the job spec, because this is what the person needs to do every day. But you can also write a job overview. This is what we need you to do and to achieve. If you're going really mad, I saw that Jeremy joined the call, you could put pounds per hour on how much it costs to hire someone that does each task, or rather how much of your time you should be spending as the founder, as the person who can deliver senior work. You should be focused on the senior stuff and not the junior stuff. Anyway, I've also put rebounds here. The temptation when you lose someone is to hire a replacement quickly. And if someone isn't performing, you really need to take some time and think, do we need to hire for that person again? I've seen multiple examples. Someone's underperforming. Well, do they actually need that role? Do we need someone in that role? Or should we take some time to think, who can we absolve this, or can we create a different position? And the reason I put basketball is because they're dashing to rebound and get to it. Whereas in netball, they take time, don't they? They take time, they catch it, and then they shoot when they're ready. And that's very important, because also if someone leaves the business who's underperforming, there's emotion there. And part of this talk is about, if you hire the right person, you won't have to get rid of them, and getting rid of people is bloody horrible. So let's talk about team dynamic next. We've moved along one chunk in our little journey, and personality fit and culture. It's not, do we like them? It's not, let's go for a pint with them. It's important, but it's not the biggest thing. It's, what does this role need? So let's look at, as a recruiter, and what you can do is take a step back and go, right, in my company, in my team, what has worked and what hasn't worked? What can we learn from who's done well and who hasn't done well? And I ask these questions to employers, and they come out with all this stuff that they'd never thought of, just because it's a simple structure. So waiting for things to happen. This is an example of people that has worked for me or with me across the history of my career. So someone who waits for things to happen. It's just not going to work in recruitment. You can constantly be doing more, speaking to more people. Whereas someone who is proactive, a self-starter, and challenges with ideas, that works. So let's think, okay, if that works, let's get that in the job spec. And I'll come on to that later. Previous people in this role, I had a recruiter once who couldn't give bad news. So which is unbelievable to be in recruitment. They were like, well, I said, well, we can offer the candidate 42,000. And they said, well, they want 45,000. And I said, well, just call them and talk to them about it. And they couldn't do it, which is madness, but fine. A positive, upbeat personality. There is in recruitment, in sales, there's a huge amount of failure. You have to be able to just come in and go again. And so think about, could that go in the personality fit? People in this role, former employers, anyone across your life that you've met that might have some indication for the role you are hiring for. Again, if you're introverted, it's just not going to work as a recruiter, I think, but I might be wrong. And a passion for helping others. That's really, really important. So then what we did, if you take that step back, you can then bring out bullet points that need to go into your job spec to then say, this is what we need from a personality and cultural fit from this role in order for it to be successful. And if you put it in your job spec, you'll probably ask a question about it at interview because you've thought about it. And that's absolutely key. So for what it's worth, our personality fit for this role, genuine passion for helping people, empathetic listener, a communicator, wants to speak to everyone, positive, upbeat personality, self-starter, driven to make an impact. Positive, upbeat personality. I've noticed that I take defeats and knockbacks I take them too badly. I'll go, oh God, it's all over. And so if I can hire someone that says, no, come on, Rory, let's get on with it. And there's a couple of people on this call who do that for me anyway, then that will work well with what I need to move my business forward. So that's why it's in there.
Rory, it's complementing you if you're in a small team, isn't it? I think the gut reaction is to bring someone in that's like you, because we all like people like us. But actually, you don't need two Rorys that sort of are down that they've had the rejection. You want that sort of that balance, I suppose.
Absolutely right. If there was two of me, we'd be saying, right, let's just can it all in.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine?
Whereas, and if you've reflected that, then great. So the next one is self-starter, driven to make an impact. But the last one, quality focus, takes a lot of pride in their work. I just will not. I don't accept anything else than the highest standard. And if someone else doesn't, then it won't work. And that's absolutely fine. They'd be, that's who I am. Maybe I need to work on that, but it's important. So the next slide is selling yourselves and selling yourself as a business. And companies are rubbish at this because it's really hard to reflect on what you're doing well, because you never think about it. So you put those generic comments in. So what I'd like to talk about is Fire Festival. Basically, don't sell what isn't there. Don't dress things up. I don't know if people are.
I was going to say there'd be a lot of older people like, what?
So Fire Festival was the festival that never happened. They sold lots of tickets, and then the company disappeared, and people lost their money, and it never existed, which is a really clever coup. But what I mean is,
on Netflix.
Yeah, still available. So other shows are available, right? So yeah, they tried to dressed it up and sold something that wasn't there. And every company tries to write a job spec that attracts as many people as possible and says all this bump about how great it is. And actually, you want to be more like the Royal Marine Commandos. What's your limit? So their advertising campaign, one of them was 99.9% need not apply. And that's the opposite of what I've just said. Whereas what they're saying is, if you're up for this, get involved, but we don't want any time wasters. And I look at that picture and I go, absolutely not. That looks hard work. It looks wet, cold, miserable. He's probably on day 4 of an exercise. Forget it. Absolutely no point am I interested in that. Whereas actually it inspires and motivates people who are that way inclined. which means that if you've got a job role with lots of repetition in it, it's got a lot of repeated admin processes that are dull. Say it. Say that the personality fit or the job spec, repetitive administration processes, because some person will love that. But companies try and hide it. We don't want to say that because that's not interesting. If there's challenging stakeholders to manage, then must have very strong senior stakeholder manager skills. And in the interview, be open and honest that the head of marketing. I mean, you probably don't want to be specific, but so there are people who really need it. It's tough to get their buy-in. They haven't got much time for you, so you have to hit the ground running with them. So be honest about the challenges, because then you'll put off the people who go, that's not for me, but you'll attract people who really like it. So I'm happy with that slide. Let's move on to the next one. So in order to sell yourselves properly, you have to think about what do all employees want. And I think I've worked them out. I'd love to do this in a workshop format, but we can't because this is a live. Autonomy, trust from the leaders and being listened to. Everyone I speak to and I say, when's your favorite job? This is what they say. Oh, there was a job where I could come forward with my ideas and they would let me run with it. And I got to implement some of them. And this is what I think almost everybody wants. And this is when people are happiest. So if you're doing it, tell the world you're doing it. And I'm going to show you how to do that. 2 is progression. All of us are insecure that our skills are going to be obsolete, particularly with ChatGPT coming in and AI. So learning new skills, that's what people want. So if you're teaching people new skills, let them know about it. One of our clients gave one of their employees time off to do a master's and helped pay for it, and never mentioned it. It was only me asking 100 questions to them that they told me that they'd done this. Know any of the job spec. And there's ways you're not promising you're going to do this. You're going to say, we will invest. Clear examples that we've invested in our employees. And I'll come on to how to do that. The next 2, being intellectually challenged and engaged and appealing to their interests and values. You can't really control those things, but what you can do is, back to the previous slide, be honest about what the role entails, and people can make that decision for themselves. So let's not dress anything up. A growing company or industry, again, it's the same as point 2, it's progression. If it's not vital, but if your company is growing, if your industry is growing, then shout about it, because people want to be part of something that's growing. It's exciting. And again, it's that insecurity. It's satisfying the insecurity that they're becoming obsolete. A fair salary compared to the market. This isn't important to everyone. I mean, it's important, but I get clients who say, oh, we can't pay as much as the big guys. And it's like, that doesn't matter. They wouldn't want to work for them. And as we've proven, there's many, many other factors where people would work for you, particularly being part of a small business or part of a role they could really shape and add impact to. It's not just money. It really isn't.
Is that in order there, Rory? Is salary like 6 on the list generally?
I mean, I think so, but this is an average and everyone's different. So obviously for some people, salary will be number 1, but this is the kind of things. And the last thing I've put on here is flexible working and remote, because it's more important now. And if it's more important, then be honest about it in the job spec, because you want to discourage people who don't like your flexible working policy. Otherwise, you'll speak to them, interview them, spend an hour or 10 minutes prepping, an hour on the call with them, and then it doesn't work. So I thought I'd put this in for a laugh. Free fruit in the office, gym and lunches, because these are nice to have things, and it might help for grads looking down a list of 10 companies to apply for. But it's not going to make a difference to people, really. They're just nice to haves. Okay, so sell the reality. Back to those commandos in the mud. So this is our selling points that we put into our job specs. So this is an example of 3 of them. Have autonomy to make decisions. The founder will listen to your ideas. So again, I'm not promising too much. I will listen to your ideas. I'm not necessarily going to implement them, but I'm saying I'll listen. And I'm putting that in our job specs at the top of the job ad. So it's worth thinking about. Be rewarded for great work. Proven examples of bonuses and progression for strong performers. So I've gone with proven examples. I haven't stated figures. I haven't given away too much. I've just said I have recognized good work and there's been progression, which means there's evidence. So they're like, okay, let's hear more. The last one is flexible working 3 days a week and shared office. So you know the location. You've already because when a candidate sees your job ad, they map out where's my life going to go in this. They're doing a strategic where can I go, and obviously one of the things is can I drive to the office, so or get the train. So it's important to be clear about that. Now let's look at job specs. So this I'm happy to share this afterwards. This is our pro forma or our the thing that we fill out for every job ad. And you've got selling points at the top. Job role overview is like, why are we hiring? What does this role need to achieve? Where's the department going? And it's like laying it, it's like writing for a TV show saying this is the summary. Because what happens is people just write out a list of things that are involved in the job description, and people don't know the full picture. Where are they going to be going with this? So job description we've talked about, and then personality fit, which I just think is massive and not enough work goes into it. So I'm happy to share this. And then further information about that, some top tips on job specs is snappy language. So, corporate chat. I can't think of examples at the moment, but just
overarching. That's always a classic.
Yeah. Stakeholder management, lead the team, or manager. I don't know. There's so much of it where you read it and you're like, this is just bump. And it's
let's circle back around, Rory.
And I think just keep it punchy. And again, for after this, I've got examples of job specs that we've made that I can share with you guys, particularly if we've got one we made in your industry. Repetition. Your classic is they write out all the things you need to do in the job description and then repeat it in the required skills. When actually you don't have to repeat anything. It's required skills is different to job description. Subheadings. We love using subheadings. So if a role, it'll say sales role. Okay, how much of it's inbound? How much is outbound? How much is new business? How much is account management? When are you doing teamwork, working with the marketing team, working with operations? When do you need to do research? So you do subheadings in the job description to explain, to show the different parts of the role. So people can really go, okay, I get it. And this is feedback we get when people apply to our job roles. They go, I've read the job spec. I like it. I get it. And it saves an endless amount of time. I can't quantify it. I'm not a mathematician. Right. So percentages, you can also put percentages on the subheadings. So for a sales position, inbound versus outbound. Inbound is clients coming to you through the website or whatever. You could put 40% is that. Outbound 40% or 10%. And then the type of, I'm going too mad on sales here, but you get hunters and farmers. Hunters go out and look for business. Farmers are account managers. Business comes to them. And you can do both, but you've always got a preference. And if the job spec tells you exactly how much it is of each, you're going to go, okay, I'll apply to that. And then salary band. So always be upfront. This is the thing. Companies don't say the salary because they want to get a good deal. But I think when you can be, put a salary up front. And I would use a band rather than a specific salary, because that means you could be more open to hiring junior or senior candidates. And if you hire someone and you put them at the top of the band, you're saying, we really value your skills. We think you're really good. And if you put them near the bottom, you can say, come in, prove yourself, and then you can move up. So salary bands are quite useful. Now I've put the rocket ship here because quite a lot of work has happened before you've even pressed hire. Whereas normally you would just go, we need to hire, stick something on LinkedIn, copy and paste it from an email, and let's just go for it. And you don't really think about what you want until about interview 4 with candidate number 4. I think it's useful to learn from each interview, but we can do a bit more thinking before candidate 4, and you've spent 10 hours of your time speaking to people.
Rory, this is fantastic, isn't it? We're half an hour in. We've had over 20 people watching live, which is fantastic, Rory. And we've got lots of interaction from our viewers. So I've got a couple of questions. I think they're probably going to be answered shortly. But Liv's online, Jack Beck's online, Dan Beecher's here. They're all here. They're all really enjoying what you're talking about. Now, Jack's asking, how important is the layout and structure of an advert? And I'm going to guess, Rory, you're probably going to answer that in a little bit.
I'm not.
Okay.
Shall we do it at the end?
There we go. We will. Oh, Dylan Gandy is online as well. Hi, Dylan. Good to see you. For me, I think, Rory, the important part about what you were talking about in terms of candidates is this harks back to marketing and target markets. And the analogy I use is when you go fishing, you need to use specific bait to catch specific fish. So the more granular and detailed you are in your description, the more likely you are as to attract the right candidate. Yeah.
Well, it's a bit, so you as a marketing business, if you say I'm all things to all people, you're going to get, you might get a massive corporate come to you, and then a one-person band come to you. And for you to create a long-term business, you probably know, Miles, your ideal customer in your head, and say you want to attract them. You don't want to attract all sorts, because then you're going, well, I'm being pulled from pillar to post here. And I think it's the same as you're looking for that candidate who would love your role and would, I've got this for a talk later. So the role is it's a medal here. So that your role is their gold medal. It's what they want to be doing now. It's what they know in their gut makes them happy. And what you want to do is speak to them and put off everyone else who isn't them.
Right, we're going to dive straight into it, but it does seem to me that Liv Gilbert Towning is my kind of people, because she loves good fish in sales. I'm just going to leave. I'm going to leave that there, Rory. Right? Okay, so we're going to crack back into it. If you have any questions at all, please pop them in the chat, and we will be answering them if we can at the end.
So we're actually 2/3 of the way through, really. Yeah. I've showed that the planning, it's all in the planning. But advertising, what I would say is that these two beauties are very, very good and getting better. With LinkedIn, it used to be very expensive for an advert, whereas now what they did, basically, Indeed did a pay-as-you-go effort, where you set a budget, 30 quid, 40 quid a day, and then LinkedIn borrowed. I mean, this is all libelous, but LinkedIn may have been influenced. Allegedly been influenced by Indeed's strategy, but what it does need is careful management. And you do get thousands of applications, or get tens, hundreds, and there's so much intricate games you can play to the job spec, the location, what you're advertising, to try to attract people, and it's an endless game of fun. And then obviously you've got headhunting after that, which is about being able to dive into someone's soul just by what they've written on their LinkedIn, and by working out in their path of their career, would they want this, from what, not just their job title, but from what they've done, how long have they been at their previous one, how long were they at the previous one before, and do you think this is the kind of opportunity that they are moving towards? I'm really letting you into my mind now. And then Otter, we're not allowed on Otter because we're recruiters, but we do hear very good things, so it's worth a bash on Otter, I would say. Recruiters, the joyous creatures that exist on this planet, and far be it from me to slag off my competition, but I'm probably going to. So this is how to really analyze whether a recruiter is any good. And the problem is they can be very good at influencing. And I've had clients on this call who, these people, they're very good at making you feel bad about their agenda. And you've just got to be really, really careful you're not being really, really manipulated. So this is some ways of doing it, of analysing it. So quality of candidates over time is fairly obvious. Are these candidates what we want? Are they sending 10 or are they sending 2? Are they really drilling down on what they're sending? Do you tell them things twice? Or in other words, do they listen to you? because if you find yourself repeating yourself about what you're looking for, that's a problem. This is a big one. Are candidates fully briefed? So we hear a lot that a candidate turns up for an interview and then you have to explain the job to them in great detail because they've got no idea, to the extent where is it? It can go that far. So you're the one who's qualifying the candidate. Now, of course, you've got to explain the role to some extent, but if you're going above and beyond, that candidate doesn't know anything about your job and you're trying to sell it to them when it should already be sold to them, really. Are candidates regularly outside the scope? So if a recruiter keeps going, oh, look, I know this guy wants 10 grand more, but just meet him, just meet him. You're like, all right, calm down. And if he does it, if the recruiter, he or she does this regularly, there may be a reason for it, which is that you're trying to pay under market rate and you need to meet people to understand what's out there. But if they're doing it regularly, then they're just trying to get an easy win. So yeah, that's something. I mean, it could even be as simple as they haven't got the skills and they haven't really qualified it. Do candidates unexpectedly fall out of the process? So this is what I said earlier. Oh, they didn't take our offer. Oh, they took another job. Sorry. Well, a recruiter should know how interested, and I'm going to teach you, talk about how you can do that in a bit. You as the hiring manager can know how interested this person is in your job by the way, the questions you've asked them. They shouldn't just reject an offer. Famous last words. It could happen to me later, but you should know. Do you feel uneasy? Suspect you're being lied to? Guilt tripping? Again, it's bloody obvious, but I've heard examples of that from our clients, and it's not great, but this is how these people survive. You've just got to be so vigilant and come back to your center, which is, are these people acting in my interest or theirs? So that's recruiters. Moving on, interviews. Hopefully this will be good. This is what I think most interviews contain. You know, those questions like, tell me about a time when you've successfully led a team. Tell me about a time when you've increased revenue. Those questions are good. They're so focused on, can this person do the job? So employers think, can they do it? Do we like them? Great. And a little bit on, do they want it? Whereas how we do it is, can they do it? Yes, that's obviously important. Although skills are less important. You know, Branson says hire for talent, train for skills, and he has a point. Now, not in everything. You know, if you have to be welding at 2,000 feet or something, you have to have done it before. But it's still important. Can they do the job? But let's move to the other two: team dynamic, culture, personality fit. Would they really love it? Do they want the job? Does it match their interest and career vision? It's just as important. And I think particularly the last one is a one question, you know, why are you interested in this job? Rather than, I'm going to talk about some questions now that pulls out how you can achieve this, how you can achieve these three things at once. I'm going to talk briefly about these questions and how to do that. So firstly, it's the atmosphere it's your job as the interviewer to set the right atmosphere in the room. And obviously it's not going out and drinking loads. But the reason I put that is you want the person to be as relaxed as if they're talking to one of their mates about their work. And it's probably one of their mates who's more inquisitive. But you're setting a relaxed atmosphere where they feel like they can be honest. And the way you can do that is start with compliments. That's what I do. Say, I love this about your CV. And they go, oh, thank you so much. And then there's a smile, and then everyone relaxes. But also, with questions, you become a bit of a smiling assassin. So what makes you happy at work is an incredible question. So most interviews start 10 minutes describing the role again, which they should know about because they've read the job spec. And then you launch into these awful competency questions about when have you led a team. Whereas actually it's what makes you happy. And if someone says, when the one role out of the 4 that I've done where I had a team underneath me, I was so motivated by blah, 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 you know. So then you can also ask that question in various different guises. What are you proudest of? Tell me about your favorite role so far. When have you felt most motivated? And what will happen is, a bit like when you put water and oil together, someone will keep coming back to the same thing over and over, which is what actually they like. And sometimes I use the question, if we didn't have this role now and I waved a magic wand, what would you be doing? And even the most prepared candidate can't bullshit you out of these questions because it's bloody hard and they haven't prepared for it. What they have prepared for is your generic questions, like tell us about a time when you've led a team or you've led a project. And what happens is away from this presentation, if you sell the job if you just go, this job's great, this job's great, this job's great, and then the candidate's saying, I can do all of it, I can do all of it, I can do all of it. You go past each other like two ships and you don't actually engage on what does this job entail? What does it need? Who would like it? And are you that person? And these questions keep it properly like your candidate. You just tell me how you feel about things. And then you can drill down a bit further. So why are you passionate about our profession? How does our job fit into with your career plan? You can drill down. And look, I ask all sorts of random questions in the end, depending on where things go to. But you just might add value to someone's day by saying, actually, I don't think this job's for you. I think what you want to do is this. And then these last three, these are the tricks for closing. How is your job search going? How do we compare to other opportunities? Are we your favorite opportunity? And candidates will give you the answer both ways. They'll either say, this is my top priority, or they'll say, I need to consider my options. And I need to consider my options 9 times out of 10 means you're a backup option. And I've got another one that's running that I prefer. As I said, it is 9 times out of 10. Occasionally they say that just because they're clever and they're like, let's be strategic and let's not give away too much. But candidates will almost always tell you that it's their favorite if it is. So that's quite a good one. That one, it's a good little trick. And then closing, which is we offer the job and then they take it. Because of questions like that, because of questions on the previous slide, you should know whether they're going to take it. And what I would suggest doing is don't make an offer formally. Don't send an offer letter out. Call them and discuss it with them and say, look, we've got HR paused. If you're up for this, we'll go for it. What do you think? If you give a job offer and send it over email, they'll go, thanks very much. And then they'll spend a week, as long as possible, seeing if there's anything else out there. So yeah, that's something. I've called it close with confidence because they've been open. If you've asked the right questions, you know what else they've got going on and you know how much they want it. And one last thing about salary. If they try and negotiate you on more salary, one thing I was taught very early on is if you've asked these questions on the previous slide, okay, because candidates will always push for more money and they won't necessarily be worth more money. So you have to be ready for that. And the way that you're ready for that is that you speak to them about all of this and work out how much they want this role and how their search is going and what else they've got. So you know that and you think they're worth 45,000, but they come back and ask for 50, and you know deep down they're just trying it on. And many companies would panic and go, oh, okay, we'll give them 50. But if you think they're worth 45 and you know they really want this job because of all the things they've told you, then you can say with confidence, let's go with 45, and they'll take it. But you have to have done the previous tasks in the right way. So outcomes. Hopefully we've been through all 8 and you guys have got pragmatic, obviously there's the recording. You've got pragmatic solutions to each 8 to make this work well. But then also, as I've mentioned before, I've got the pro forma for the job spec. I've got example job specs, and I'm happy to have a conversation when the time is right about these things. We do recruiting, we'll go and find the people, but we'll also help you think about it 1 to 4. So that's it.
Wow. Rory, that was fantastic. If our audience could, I'm sure that they would give you a rapturous round of applause. We do have some questions and some comments. So, Nadja does ask, is it possible to get the presentation or the slide with the questions? Well, what I'm going to say to you there, Nadja, is why don't you take a screenshot now, because Rory's email is on screen, rory@thecareeragent.co.uk. Please just reach out directly, I'm guessing, Rory, have the conversation. where you can get all those useful hints and tips. I've got a big round of applause from Mr. Gandhi. So I just want to sort of scroll back round. Jack had that particular question. So how soon should you contact an applicant of your job that you want to speak to? Is it less than 24 hours? Is that too keen or too smart? I mean,
I don't think there's a such thing as too keen. I think you can sound too keen in your tone of voice, but I think there's another recruitment business that set out, they created a thing over time, candidates' interest, and it goes down over time like that. And if you're quick and efficient, then people judge the company by being quick and efficient, and they go, these guys are really organized. But also it's nice to be wanted and nice to be chased. I think you can say it feels like we're talking about dating here. Like, you can say we're interested without being overly keen. And I don't think you need to be strategic and sort of, play the game and give it 2 days. It's all nonsense. I think get straight in contact with them, and you've got to think, well, what would you want as a candidate? I think I'd be excited if a company it felt like they were believing in you. I think that would be cool.
Okay, super. I've just worked out that I can actually show people's questions on screen. And basically, Nicola, that's quite cool, isn't it? Nicola's basically saying that she agrees. And she's saying she's had a lot of issues recently where basically people haven't acted quick enough. So she was encouraging people to keep the process moving on as fast as possible to sort of strike while the iron's hot. And Jack was agreeing with her there. Couple of people asking if they for the presentation, so that's great. So I'm saying get in touch with Rory. He's so much more than a presentation. Yeah.
Jason.
There we go. He's not much more. Jason is asking.
I like that.
Let's put it on the screen. Would you ever send the interview questions to an applicant before the interview, especially if an applicant is introverted?
Absolutely not. But what I would say is, if a candidate is introverted, then something I could have put on the presentation is mirroring. If someone is quieter, softer spoken, then mirror towards them and make them feel, again, those beers in the pub, it doesn't have to be a load of loud shouty people, a load of a sports team or something. It could be a quiet corner of a pub. You want to make them feel comfortable, but I don't think you want to send them those questions, but you can adapt your approach to it 100%. But definitely, if you send them the questions, they'll prepare something that might not be what they really think.
I think as well, Rory, with you mentioned AI, with the advent of AI, the first thing I'd be doing as a candidate is popping it into AI and asking it, how can I best answer this this particular question, right? I'd be doing my homework. Exactly. We did promise that we would go back to Jack. I've scrolled through the chat there. So Jack Beck is asking, how important is the layout and structure of the advert?
He's written a really good. He's got this other really good one coming up. I mean, it's important, and I think the structure that we've given, you can change it, and you just want to put it in the best light, don't you? And I think it's really important. It's like your shop, the front of your store. You want it to look smart as people come in, and so I think it is a bit of love and care. But you all know, you've all seen job specs that are absolute rubbish, and I don't think it's too difficult to make it look good. Obviously, I spent a lot of time thinking about these things, so it does help. 12 years.
Going back to what you were doing within your sort of setup there, I guess if you've done the base work, the foundations, understanding what it is that you want, you're probably able to pull 2 or 3 or 4 salient points out to put within your advert, right? You should have already, before you get to your advert, you should have created this stuff and thought about the stuff in the first place, and that'll populate your advert. Then will become easy, I would suggest. So Jack's enjoying throwing the questions out today. Thank you, Jack. We appreciate this.
Question. Great question.
So I don't need to read it out. You can see it there, Rory.
Do you agree with assessments before interviews, or is that an unnecessary barrier? It's interesting because I like to put very small barriers in the place of candidates, like, can you send me your CV slightly updated, just to see if they step over them. However, if you put a barrier in place before someone is brought in, they'll go, oh, for God's sake. And you can do that if you're Goldman Sachs. But if you're a smaller business, you know, someone might go, oh yeah, I'll do that tomorrow, and then they don't come back to it. I think you should do. I also think a task is incredible as part of an interview process, but they have to be brought in. They have to be like, yeah, I'm up for this. A task is so good to check, and sometimes what you'll get is a candidate will pull out of a process much earlier if there's a task involved, because they'll go, do you know what, this isn't quite right for me. So I think they're really clever, but I think if you put it in before an interview, it's got to be pretty short and sweet, because people are busy.
Okay. Come on, people. Don't let Jack dominate the questions.
Yeah, so Glassdoor, it's a nightmare, because, you know, you only go on there if you're annoyed. Why would you go on Glassdoor to say this company is fairly good? Or why would you go and say it's brilliant? I don't, unless the management said, please, can you go on Glassdoor and leave a review? And also, you know, I mean, there's my wife and I went to Lanzarote one year, and we went to a hotel that was highly rated, and we were like, this is not a good hotel. But you don't know who, my point is, you don't know who's writing the reviews. So it's conjecture. Someone might be let go. They might have been performed terribly, but in their mind, and they might not have tried at all, but in their mind, they think, yeah, I did my best and it was their fault. And that's how, because human memory is selective. So Glassdoor is a disaster and doesn't really work. But also there's nothing you can really do about it. Apart from get people to write reviews that aren't sincere. So it's not great.
Talking of reviews, Rory, this brings us very nicely onto this particular point. So I'm going to say to you all out there watching now and watching on catch up, that if you have enjoyed listening to this, and there have been some fantastic points about how to recruit the best candidates, then please pop on to Rory's LinkedIn page and leave him a review, right? Why not leave him a review? Obviously a nice one, right? If you, I mean, I suppose like a decent point to make here is that if you do have a point to make which isn't particularly glowing, then maybe just get in touch with Rory and have a conversation about if you disagree with any of his sort of approach, I would say.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
We like to provide a balanced opinion here. Any more questions apart from Jack? Because I'm going to say, Jack, you definitely need to have a one-to-one with Rory. It sounds like you've got a lot of questions to ask, and I certainly think Rory can help you with all of the answers. But it's been a very, very lively LinkedIn Live today, Rory. Very busy on the amount of people that have been watching us live. Big thank you to Jack, Jason, Dan, Dylan, Liv, Nicola, who came in at the top. And I think I got his name wrong. Jeremy. I didn't have my glasses quite at the right angle, Jeremy. I thought it said Jeremy Home, and it's actually Jeremy Horn. So apologies there. Right, I think we're all done. Oh, wait, there we got Dylan pop through. He's saying for his care clients, we encourage staff to leave reviews on Google My Business about their experiences working for the company. Is this useful?
Yeah, I think it's useful, but I think they would probably get mixed up with your customers leaving reviews on Google My Business. But I think that is useful, and I think candidates are likely to look at that. So I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I would say, Dylan, that you know, having as much social proof around your company as possible. I would also say that a really good area to try and display the culture of your business is on a LinkedIn business page. You know, business pages tend to get a bit of a bad rep because everyone's really about personal pages, but through a business page, you can have the opportunity to reflect the culture within your company, and you can publicly, recommend people and thank people for their services and really show in detail what the culture within your business is all about. So another little point to be made there. Okay, any more? We've kept this under an hour, which is nice, Rory.
Jack mentioned somewhere, but Jack again, that putting the salary near the top of the role. Absolutely. And why not?
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me like it's one of the biggest things about a role, right? I mean, and hiding it away, in my opinion, only makes you sort of think that, you know, the company's got something to hide, or it's not going to be as good as you're expecting. I mean, if it is what it is, and like you said, put that bracket up there and you can, appoint things appropriately. And you can use it as a bit of a carrot rather than the stick.
Well, I've got to say a huge thank you, Miles, because I wouldn't. Not only is it being so professional, and look at the setup, it's all very attractive. But I wouldn't have, without you and your support, I wouldn't have done this. So thank you very much.
Look, you are very welcome. It's great to share someone with so much knowledge and passion within an area that, you know, I'm not going to say it hasn't got a great reputation, but I think that, you know, a lot of the time, a bit like estate agents, there are great estate agents out there, but everyone seems to have something to say potentially about recruiters, and not everyone approaches it in the same methodical way that you do. So I'm a big advocate of Rory as a person and the career agent. So, get connected. If you're not connected with Rory, then please do. Like I say, his email's on the screen because he wants you to get in touch and he wants to continue the conversation off this platform. If you've liked what you've listened to, then please give us a thumbs up, as they say on YouTube. This is evergreen content, right? It's going to stay on Rory and my feed now. You can come back and you can look at the particular screens that Rory's put up, but I do urge you to get in touch. So thank you very much indeed, Rory. Next month, do you know what? Next month's special guest, Rory, is a guy called Mark, who is a family lawyer, and we're going to be talking about divorce and the male aspect of divorce. So that should be an interesting one.
We have a
I know from one thing to another.
We have a client who work in that, so I'll join up for that.
Excellent. Well, hopefully I look forward to seeing you all, and hopefully we'll make some new friends. But thank you so much indeed for putting so much time and effort in, Rory. And until next time, it's ta-ta from me.
And it's goodbye from him.
And it's goodbye from him.